Okay, so it literally took me 9 hours to get through and understand the entire Justin Baldoni lawsuit. I would be lying to you guys if I didn't say reading this and going through it with a fine-tooth comb and really making a meaningful effort to just look at the facts alone didn't completely change my entire perspective on the situation. So I'm gonna do my best to go through the most important points that I found, because I think I discovered some things that I have not seen anybody else talk about. Before I do, I would just like to say that I don't get paid through TikTok, and doing these types of videos, the video essays, the deep dives, it doesn't really benefit me or my business in any way. So it would really just mean a lot if you're not following me to just press the little follow button. It's free, it's really easy, and it would mean a lot, so thank you. Now, before people come at me in the comments, I just want to say, yes, initially I did fully believe Blake Lively, and even after Justin Baldoni filed his first lawsuit against the New York Times, I read that, I still was not fully convinced of his case, to be honest with you. And I'm not going to apologize for that, because at the end of the day, we should all be aware it is statistically unlikely for a woman to lie about sexual harassment claims. So I'm not going to apologize for having a knee-jerk reaction of trying to kind of course correct. However, there's also a special place in hell for people who lie about these types of things, because it creates an atmosphere where people who are real victims are scared to come forward. I was not in the room. I do not know these people. You guys know how I feel about celebrities. But just keep in mind the track record here. I was one of the few people that I didn't immediately change my mind when Justin Baldoni first came out with his side of the story. I was not prepared for the mountain and the line-by-line evidence that disputed every single solitary thing that Blake Lively said. Everything. So, unless Blake Lively has some massive smoking gun, like a video of Justin Baldoni harassing her or doing something terrible, I am terrified for her and Ryan Reynolds' reputation, because if this goes to court, it could be the end of them. The end of them forever, because they seem like terrible, terrible people. So after reading the first two lawsuits and going through them line by line, there was still one question for me that wasn't adding up, which is, how did this seemingly normal friendship and working relationship between Justin and Blake turn sour so dramatically and escalate to the point of such intense hatred between the two? And after reading this lawsuit, I think we found that answer. I truly, wholeheartedly believe that the only explanation to this is that there was some type of underlying flirtation happening between the two. I believe that someone developed feelings for the other. Ryan Reynolds sensed this, discovered this in some way, because this is the only explanation for me as to why he would be so bent on absolutely destroying this individual's life. I'd like to remind you guys that both Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds met each other being co-stars and fell in love being co-stars. This is something that happens very often because you're in close quarters with someone, all the actors are good looking, you're simulating sex and kissing with somebody, feelings can occur. This is also how Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds met when they were both with other partners. I believe that both Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds cheated on their respective partners when they got together on Green Lantern, allegedly. So when we look at their messages, I think it makes a lot of sense, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't think this is appropriate the way that these co-stars were speaking to each other. So let's look at this. On both their parts. At one point, Justin Baldoni messages Blake Lively in the evening and says, "I like sentimental Blake." She says, "Never met her." He says, "I also like asshole Blake, don't worry. Good night." She says, "I've met her, so I'll have my suppositories." Okay, so a little bit of an inappropriate joke on behalf of Blake Lively, referencing inserting something up her rectum. Another time, Lively was so close and comfortable with Baldoni that she freely breastfed in front of him during meetings. She took photos of him holding and soothing her crying baby in her penthouse. They laughed deliriously during late-night writing sessions. All of these took place after the alleged sexual harassment. Another time, this is referenced again. The lawsuit says Baldoni filmed her uncontrollably laughing with him as they rehearsed late night into the evening, often delirious with exhaustion. So this is the infamous text message that Blake Lively sent to Justin Baldoni, again at 10 p.m. in the evening. Wrote this man an essay. I'm not sure if Ryan Reynolds was sitting right next to her when she did, but I do not think it is remotely out of the realm of possibility that someone as ego-driven as Ryan Reynolds could have become insecure in the fact that his wife was collaborating so closely and filming something so intimate as this film was with someone, and as they say, you lose them the way that you catch them. So that could have been a thought that was percolating in the back of his mind. That was the underlying emotional factors that drove this disagreement that really should have been settled privately into a full-blown war. As you guys know, this is the infamous text message that was sent the evening that Justin Baldoni was allegedly ambushed by Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift, who were talking about how Blake Lively's script was so amazing, basically suggesting that you better pick Blake Lively's script. And this is the infamous message where she compared herself to Khaleesi. She said, "I am Khaleesi. I happen to have a few dragons, for better or worse, but usually for better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. You will too, I can promise you." This message really disgusts me because I know we know really powerful people do this, but to just hear somebody so brazenly talk about the influence she has because she's friends with one of the most powerful celebrities in the entire world, Ryan Reynolds is obviously extremely powerful in Hollywood, to sort of use that as a veiled threat is pretty disgusting and honestly just really embarrassing. I don't think Taylor Swift is probably happy about being used as a bargaining tool. So the first thing that Blake Lively seemingly did lie about is when she was saying that Justin Baldoni was fat shaming her and that there was no scene in the film where she had to be lifted. There was in fact a scene where she had to be lifted, which was cut from the movie because of her. Justin Baldoni did in fact and does have proof that he has a back injury, and he also did show proof that the reason he inquired about her weight was so he could practice physically, so he could lift her up. So he wasn't really fat shaming her. Not only was he not fat shaming her, he was actually doing the opposite, and we have messages to prove that he was actually supporting her and the insecurities that she was feeling. He said, "I want you to look amazing. Anything you're insecure about, we'll walk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need." So there you go. So Blake Lively responds to this message and says, "As woke as we both are and work to be," first of all, who calls themselves woke? The millennial really jumped out there for a second. "This movie requires a certain aesthetic." So if you're confused about what she's saying there, she's basically saying, it's not politically correct to say, but I gotta get skinny for this role, and I'm gonna do everything I can to accomplish that. She then says this is necessary to make the film a commercial success, using the word commercial several times, to me showing that it being a financial success was maybe her top priority. And at the bottom of this message, she says, "We are gonna kill it and be so fit they have to Lola us to look less bangin'." Lola, in other words, means visual effects. So she's basically saying, don't worry, Justin, you got this. We're going to become so fit that they're going to have to visually edit us to make us look uglier. The other misleading part about Blake Lively's lawsuit is that she said there was no intimacy coordinator. There was 100% an intimacy coordinator on set for all scenes where it was required. Another specific part about Blake Lively's lawsuit that seems to have been very grossly misrepresented by her was she alleged that Justin Baldoni basically broke character, smelt her, was being very creepy, said that she smelt good, not as part of the film, but as himself, and it made her very uncomfortable. But apparently, Blake Lively had apologized because her spray tan smelled bad, and Justin Baldoni said, "Don't worry, it smells good," and they continued acting. This was allegedly caught on film. So this is one of these examples where if it goes to court and they have the full footage of her saying this, and she was trying to make him look like a creep, and it was just this very innocuous interaction that's not going to make her look good. Another similar thing happened later was when she alleged that he was commenting on her physical appearance. They apparently have video and audio footage of Lively making fun of his nose and saying that he needed a nose job. And we're not even halfway done, so go to part 2.